So now we are welcoming Andrew Lee, our advisor and board member of ChromaWay China, to give us a speech about stages of Dapps.
Sure, thank you so much. Yeah, it won't take long. I will make this last probably 10 minutes, so I'm putting a timer. But yeah, thank you so much for letting me speak. I know there's a lot of folks here that are talented and smart in different ways, so grateful for the opportunity to be in control of the mic. Everyone here has good ideas. So a little background on why I'm here and how I'm an advisor to ChromaWay. I first heard about the project about February, early March, and immediately became a fan because this team not only was extremely early adopter, but they also shared the vision where, you know, I really sincerely believe that we're in a platform race to create the most usable developer experience to build Dapps. And so, as Henrik mentioned on his video, he was saying, you know, we had blockchain technology, we really didn't know we could make a business out of it. And yes, the ChromaWay team was very successful in finding enterprise and government adoption for blockchain use cases. I think right now, you know, 5-6 years later, we're at a similar turning stone point where we're really wondering, you know, what is the use case? What are the Dapps, the applications that are going to be useful out of this technology? No one really knows yet. So crypto is like very intimidating to invest in. It's very hard to understand in the early days. You're getting, you know, your smartest friend next to you tells you, you don't understand smart contracts, read the Ethereum white paper. And then next thing you say, I don't understand the Ethereum white paper, then they say, look at its GitHub. It's a very intimidating space, but the good thing is, you know, it's a communal industry, meaning we have the help of others. And a big reason why I'm here is because, you know, Alex is insanely talented, you know, the all-star of the team. But in reality, he's not a one-man team. He can't build the whole platform himself, nor can he market it or adopt it. So a big part of how I believe, you know, as fans of the platform and as fans of the team should help is to actually, you know, help the project as much as we can, so we eventually, you know, get adoption and have Dapps being built. So actually, my main thesis is really just what is the platform that's going to be the most usable, and am I biased towards any particular project? I mean, there are some competitors that are going after the same thing, right? There's EOS and Lisk and et cetera. But what really drew me to the ChromaWay team is the experience of the team and the fact that already previously in their experience, they were already successful in delivering and shipping, you know, blockchain use cases. Previously enterprises and governments, but if they did it once, I really have faith that they can deliver again. So back to my presentation on Dapps. Dapps are, in my opinion, the next big thing in tech. So if you are like me, you're in your 20s or 30s, you've probably enjoyed using the internet as a kid or however old you were. And you've noticed probably that with tech and internet, there's these big cycles in changes in the applications we use. So I'll make it brief, but let's say in the 90s, you know, it was a lot of static web pages. It's a highway of information, pretty much a one-way stream of information. A lot of people refer this to Web 1.0, where companies like Google, Yahoo, internet portals, they finally, you know, allowed you to get access to information as opposed to going to a library or renting a book or buying a book. So that was pretty much a one-way access of information. Next, you've had, you know, social networks, Web 2.0, where actually the applications became more complicated due to advancements in web technologies. You can actually you know, send your data to a database and access it and share data with others. So we saw big, more complicated applications like Facebook and MySpace were born. And then later on, next came mobile applications, where a lot of people were confused, like what's going to be the next billion-dollar company that comes out of this? And I was a little bit older back then, so I was like 2008. And it definitely took some time until we saw the big use cases come out of mobile apps. There was a lot of hype around certain use cases that didn't really pan out, but naturally, the big winners at the time were Instagram and WhatsApp and Uber. So, these are use cases, and like use cases just meaning the reason why you use an application that weren't possible before on a computer. Like with a smartphone in your pocket, now you have a camera, and you also have GPS. So what can you do with that? Maybe you can call a taxi with your phone, or you can share photos on the go all the time, which is what Instagram became. So as we've seen in tech, I've always paid attention to what are the differences in the dev tools, the platform, what's different about what we can build with applications that haven't been possible before. So I think we're at the brink right now of building out the infrastructure of building decentralized applications. Never before have we really cared about it, but for the first time, as Bitcoin pioneered, that actually decentralizing a database, decentralizing the rules and laws of how an application works is actually something that someone can actually care about. And so what's different about what people are calling a Web3, a user-owned web, Internet of Value? There are tons and tons of smart teams out there, ChromaWay definitely not being the only one, that are creating marketplaces for computation, storage, and as Bitcoin pretty much has pioneered, decentralized ledger, decentralized database. And it's interesting because I'm always thinking about, and maybe some of the people here can brainstorm and point me to better ideas on what exactly are going to be the big winners coming out of this technology. And for me, after putting a little bit of thought into it, I've come to the conclusion that the criteria that we're looking for are any application or use case that has a cost of trust using it, that makes you, that forces you to trust it, and you exchange some sort of value with it. And I know that's really broad, and that's a good thing because people are still figuring out what decentralized computing, decentralized storage, decentralized ledgers are still good for. It's still in a very, very disruptive time frame. And it's really sort of uncertain at this point. We really don't know if users even care about decentralization. For example, here in The Guardian, there's an article that said, "Are you ready? Here's all the data Facebook and Google have on you." And it tells you they have every message, every sticker, your location history, your photos. Literally, they have all of this stuff on you. It's pretty insane, but it's a centralized service and it works really well for what it's good for. Does anyone actually care that they actually have all your data? To me, we really don't know yet. And so there are a lot of entrepreneurs and eager founders out there, developers, who are innovating right now and trying to find out, what do consumers care about? What's the decentralized use cases that are going to be mainstream long term? And I'm keeping an eye on it, and it seems like we're still in the very early stages of innovation here. As you can see, there's Everpedia, decentralized version of Wikipedia. There's SpringRoll, a decentralized professional attribution platform. And a few more attempts. Someone's trying to make a decentralized YouTube, someone's trying to make a decentralized version of DocuSign, etc. And the reason why I think we haven't seen much adoption for Dapps yet is it takes time to innovate, but not only that, the infrastructure isn't there yet. So if we've seen one of the first Dapps that got a lot of noise, it was CryptoKitties, and that's partially because, sorry, throat's dry. It's one of the easiest use cases to build. It's just a decentralized ledger and you get to trade collectibles. But over time, I think that the use cases will get more and more complicated as the infrastructure and the dev stack improves, which is why I see so much promise in ChromaWay. So, in summary, we're in the super early stage of Dapps. I personally think that we should stretch our imagination for what a Dapp really is. I mean, technically, Bitcoin is a Dapp. It's a decentralized use case, a decentralized application, and technically IDEX, which is a decentralized exchange, is a Dapp. I mean, we really don't know. In the traditional sense, applications were something that we thought of as, you know, having a pretty UI UX and to use it. But actually, it's a bit of a stretch of the imagination because, you know, I think the most, you know, people won't jump to a new application unless, you know, it's 10x better, as, you know, Ben Horowitz made popular. The new thing has to be 10x better. So what are the use cases out there where we are, you know, it costs so much to trust it, or that we cannot like afford to not use this new thing? In that case, money is a perfect use case where you don't trust the government and you're sending value, and that's an excellent use case. Will consumers care about decentralizing, you know, their social applications, decentralizing the marketplaces they use on a daily basis? I really don't know. I agree with Alex, the CTO, saying that gaming is definitely a great first entry point to Dapps. But you know, part of what's so interesting about crypto is that we can really incentivize, I think, a crowd and a network effect around building and innovating and trying much easier. Ideologically, ideally, you know, if you own Chromopolis tokens, or if you own tokens to any sort of protocol, it should accrue in value over time the more the protocol is adapted for use cases. So in a sense, crypto is unlike VC, where it's extremely communal. You know, everyone has their strengths. Alex is, you know, the technical whiz, but I think we all play our part in helping the tech become very, very real long term. So I don't have the answers for what will come out of this. I think if you do have the answer, you'll probably be famous and benefit economically from it in a few years. But if you're open to brainstorming with me on, you know, what that could be, I'm absolutely open for ideas. So I like this quote from Steve Jobs that says, one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards from the technology. You can't start from the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try and sell it. So as mentioned, the Dapp use cases have to be such a burning, hot fire problem where we hate to trust it. You know, we're transferring value in such a way that actually the Dapp makes it 10 times better than a centralized version. Games, money, maybe gambling, casinos, it is yet to be really seen. We're in the early days. As commonly said, we're like in the early 90s of internet infrastructure. It's like that right now for Dapps. So it's a long game. I think maybe 10 more years, in my honest opinion, until it becomes very, very obvious what these use cases in Dapps are. So those are my thoughts, and my goal is to make crypto less intimidating, less about speculation, and more about how do we make this tech real, how do we make it useful, how do we make it super, super, super obvious for what it is and what we're here for. That's it. Thank you so much.